Hey, third video in the portrait series. Here editing a photo of Sarah. And I think as I look at the refined exposure, I'm noticing that this blend mode linear dodge is bringing out some more color and detail in her face, but also is sort of getting a bit of overexposure and a bit of artificiality going on there. So I'm going to fuss over the exposure a little bit more, double click on the exposure layer and the properties themselves. And let's play with some other sliders, see what we get. Moving the offset up or down. So that's way overexposing it, right? And putting like a fog in front of her. If I pull it down a little bit, I get a little more saturation, it seems, and a little more detail, a little less blown out highlights. I like that. Play with the exposure again. Up too much, right? And bring it back. There we go. Now I'm getting like more light, but it's softer. Speaking of, what if I tried a blend mode instead of linear dodge, try soft light? And it made it darker, but that's because the opacity is 60%. Let's bring it up. Too much, right? Let it through. Now it's getting foggy. Okay, it's not working. All right, so we have to explore and experiment to find what we want. I'm going to go back to linear light. Whoa, not good. No, not linear light. What did I do? Linear dodge. And there we go. I brought it up to 80%. So maybe the happy place is about 73. Okay, there we go. I'm liking that. I think the offset really helped this one. Okay. Now the next tool we can use, which we have to use on the photo itself. Okay, so before we actually work on this one, in order to separate my edits, right? So all these together right now are an exposure change. What I'm going to do is create a new layer in a new way. And it's basically I'm going to merge all the layers and create a new layer on top. What you have to do is listen carefully. You push Control, Alt, Shift, and E. You can be an octopus on this one and push a bunch of buttons at the same time and give it a moment to do it. Control, Alt, Shift, E. And there it is, okay? So what this is, this new layer on top, is actually a combination of all the layers below it. Now I'm going to work on this layer only. See, I turned the eyeball off on these layers. I'm going to work on just this one layer right here now, okay? And actually, if you want to be extra careful so you have multiple options in the future as you work on a photo, you could duplicate that layer. You can right-click and go duplicate. That's my preferred way. Another way is click and hold it and go down to the new layer icon here and drop it, and it creates a copy. All right, so your choice. But this one, I'm going to work on the spot healing tool and work on some spots and such on her face, so blemishes. Now, this is where we get into like an ethical choice. Like, do you think you should remove blemishes like pimples or anything else in someone's portrait or leave them all there? The fashion industry wildly changes photos. And I encourage you to think about like what your opinions are on doing such a thing. You know, we're all presenting ourselves in different ways. Okay. And, you know, just something to think about. Okay, so I'm going to name it blemishes before I do anything. And then let's go get the spot healing tool. That's the one I introduced yesterday. Let's click on that, spot healing. And I'm going to leave it on the default, but I'm going to make the brush a little smaller. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in on the photo. And I'm not going to change too much, but maybe a couple of little distracting pieces. Hold down the space bar to move the face over, move the portrait picture over, and let's start clicking. The spot healing brush will just click on something and give it a moment, and then it gets some pixels from somewhere nearby and replaces them. Okay, I'm gonna go here, and you need the brush to be a little larger than the area you're trying to fix. I'll play with it a little bit. I wouldn't overdo it, but just to know that this tool is available if you want to get rid of a few things. I mean, they go away after a little while anyway, in real life, right? So is it really that bad to remove them in a photo? I don't know. This is an issue you get to think about. Okay, pal. All right. And maybe a couple freckles. But, freckles are part of her personality, right? Part of her being. All right. And there is the spot healing brush. So you got before and after. Let's go. Pull back a little bit. Oh, wrong button. Right. Before and after. It's very subtle right now. But if I keep going with it, I could, see where it goes.